York preacher with a vast history of anti-LGBTQ hate is facing allegations of abuse against school children. Pastor James Manning's church is classified as a hate group by the SPLC, but he is able to run a school anyway. He runs a kindergarten through 12th grade private school at the church. The two units are called Great Tomorrow's USA Elementary Middle and ATLAH High School. And to give you a level of, get an idea of the levels of his anti-gay agenda that he preaches in church and through school. At what point, according to 4 former congregants, so 4, Manning even asked church followers to defecate in a bag and leave it at gay-owned businesses. This is a preacher.
No, he doesn't have issues at all.
Right. One former student said Manning had been sexually harassing her and touching her inappropriately, so she secretly recorded him. And they're not releasing her last name for her protection, but on the recording, Manning can be heard complimenting her breast and saying he wanted to pull up her skirt. He also says he first started having feelings for her when she started at the ATLAH school. For the record, she was 14 when she started there. And another former student told the outlet that he was locked in a basement for 3 days by Manning as punishment for having sex with the girl. Multiple other former students say they were kicked out, and there are apartments at the church, like on this property. So when you're kicked out of the church, kicked out of the school, you can be kicked out of your home. And multiple students say as children, they were kicked out of their homes by Manning because he said they were gay. And if you're a longtime viewer, you may remember he kind of came at TYT years ago. Here he is back in 2012.
Appeared to me that this group, the Young Turks, who are they anyway? I mean, are they people from Turkey, or are they some sort of a street gang? I mean, I've never heard, I don't even, this guy's name, I think his name is Cenk Uygur. What kind of name is that anyway? I mean, where was he born? Was he born in the Baltics somewhere, Bosnia? Was he born on some other planet? Why did he get a name like that in the first place? And then the name Young Turks. Why don't they speak English?
It's English there, but that it gets even worse because he came after one of the kindest humans ever, J.R. Jackson.
This guy JR, let me say a word about him. I don't know where he got his name. JR Jackson. He's this guy, Chink's Tonto. So you call Chink the Lone Ranger, and this guy JR, call him Tonto because he's a sidekick.
That's so mean.
Okay, no, it's not about the meanness. This guy's a clown extraordinaire. I'm not at all surprised by this story. There is one element I'm very surprised by. But I'm kind of bummed that it's taken a depressing turn. Like his hatred was so over the top that it was comical. Like it's not comical when they leave the poop on people's front door, right? But like he at some point came on the Young Turks, okay? And so he got famous for a little while for a number of crazy things that he said, including about Obama. And then he said that Starbucks was putting semen in its coffee. But get a load of this, the rest of the theory, because it would obviously make it taste more delicious. Okay, and I was like,
That's weird.
Okay, so then he came on the Young Turks, and when we asked him about whether because he talked about in prison and guys doing da da da, and then we said, well, then would you be interested in that? And he stumbled a little bit and well, who wouldn't be? And we're like, oh, really? That's kind of fascinating, right? So the part of the story that I'm surprised by is that he was going after the young girls. Because I honestly, the minute I saw the headline, I was like, oh, I knew it. And I thought it was gonna be young boys. Because I mean, who talks about how delicious semen is and how people are trying to trick others into going to places just to drink it? Right, like that's not a thing that normal people say. But I'm by normal. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's no gay people saying that either. Like, oh, Starbucks, there they go, try to trick straight people into going by doing that trick, right? Nobody sane thinks that. But now, unfortunately, it's taking a turn here because. I mean, going after 14-year-old girls, no. Well, we need to have a police investigation.
She was the one that was brave enough to say something. You don't know who has been sexually abused, and with the stigma that that Black boys and brown boys have to deal with their sexuality is very it's very rare that they come forward when they're sexually abused, especially by a man, because if it's a woman, then it feeds the macho, thing. But if it's not, if it's a man, then it implicates that you might be homosexual. So they're very pedophiles, or molesters. They molest children. What bothers me about this is, one, when people accuse gay people of being inappropriate with children. Like gay people have their sexual preference. Pedophiles have a preference of children, and I hate when they try to commingle the two. The other thing is there's this big old conspiracy that the white America and the establishment are trying to emasculate black men so that we don't further, there's an agenda. Even if there is an agenda, it is our responsibility to our own to protect our village. And the way we treat our own, this is one thing that we don't like to talk about because it makes us uncomfortable. When you hear what Kevin Hart says, or when you hear Tracy Morgan saying these things and you demonize them, but you don't go to the root of the issue, which is in our communities, through this religion, we are taught that homosexuality is an abomination, and we do not treat our people within our family who are part of that LGBTQ reality with kindness. We shun them and we are abusive. My uncle was murdered in a hate crime, and I think it's very important that we have these conversations. With him, it's the chickens coming home to roost. Like, you watch the video, anytime you see somebody that's so preoccupied with other people's sexuality, there's always something in the dark about them. Because I don't go to sleep worrying about other people and what they're doing.
That is whenever somebody just goes out of their way to be just outwardly hateful like this, they are hiding something. It looks like he was hiding that he likes kids. Bill Cosby spewed this like anti-black rhetoric for years, and it turns out he was hiding rape.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always something.
I mean, Brooke, that's like the most classic example in a sense, because you remember the comment Cosby used to make most to African-American kids: pull your pants up. And it turned out the main problem with Bill Cosby was he had his pants down. And I think that it literally was a subconscious metaphor. And they do this projection thing. I mean, look at what Pastor Manning locked up the kid in the basement for having sex with a girl. I don't know if it was the same girl he wanted to have sex with, but they do outward projections. That's why I was surprised that the scandal wasn't that he turned out to be gay, because he attacks gay people with such fervor that I thought for sure that's what he was hiding, but it turns out he might be hiding something else, which might be this pedophilia issue.
That's all cult leaders do too, like punish young boys because nobody's allowed to have interaction with women except for the cult leader.
And stop beating our children when you find out that they're having sex with people of the same sex or others, and sit down and talk to our children. We have so much misinformation. But I want to say this because somebody came at me on Twitter about this. JR is nobody's Tonto. JR is a black man that stands up for black people and all people in humanity daily. That whole misconception that Cenk has this thing going on where he has us all under his command, and the reason that we're on here is because we talk about what he wants us to talk about, is a lie. I've never been bullied here. I disagree with everybody here when I can. If I disagree, I disagree. Nobody brings me here so that I can recite talking points. They brought us here so that we can give a voice to people who don't have a voice, because when you look at mainstream media, you don't see that. So that whole thing, you guys, stop, don't come at me with that. And that's disrespectful to people who are out here really talking the talk, because the offices at TYT, I've been to the offices where the money is being thrown at people to tell the lies. That does not exist here. These people come here to work every day to tell stories like the story about Trayvon Martin with Ben Crump, where nobody would tell it when it happened. And we need to stop talking about people of color because they don't agree with you and calling people sellouts and tontos and all of that. We need solidarity, and it begins with you. Nobody here is saying what they're telling us to say.
Okay, can I just, when you were talking, Aida, I just realized something. That too is projection, because what do you see in the rest of media? You see executives hiring people that with a certain point of view.
Right.
They just have common assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And their assumptions are the status quo is pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's keep that going. And if you disturb the status quo, you're being uncivil.
Yep.
Right? And so what we said, but we need change because, for example, black people are being arrested at 4 times the rate for smoking marijuana when they smoke it at the same rates as white people. Unarmed black people are being shot, but also non-racial issues, progressive issues, etc. No. Come on. If you're gonna have change, it has to be nice and easy and really small. Hey, look at that. I hired every anchor that has the same opinion as the executives do. But we don't do that here. And that is why oftentimes people then turn around and criticize us. Why do you have this guy on the network? Why do you have that person on the network? They don't agree with you. I know, and that's okay. Because we're trying to have real conversations here among adults. And oftentimes we agree and sometimes we disagree because that's what real people do. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.